Hello, ladies, and welcome back. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn. Today's episode is all about how to get more done, but without burning out. If your to-do list never ends, your calendar is packed, and you're running on caffeine and sheer willpower, this one's for you. I'm sharing the secret system that high-performing women use to manage their workload, protect their energy, and finally feel in control again. So if you're ready to take back that wheel, come back and join me for episode 82, where we'll talk about it all right here on the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast.
Are you a strong, independent woman who's passionate about her career? Then this podcast is perfect for you. Based on her book, The Career Woman's Secret Playbook, career coach Dr. Dawn Hamby shares the kind of insider secrets you can only know if you've hired, fired, and promoted employees over the past 30 years.
Ladies, I'm on a mission to help busy women just like you create a career and life you love without sacrificing your work-life balance to get it. Come join me as we inspire and motivate each other only as women can and have lots of fun along the way.
With Dr. Dawn's tools, strategies, and action steps, you can unleash your personal and professional power in a whole new way. Here's today's episode.
Welcome back, ladies, to the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast. You guys, I'm going to start with explaining a little something extra about productivity and a big misconception. I want to start with this. Busyness is not the same as productivity. In other words, you can have a full packed schedule and still not be moving any closer to your goals. Many of the women I coach come to me completely exhausted. They are at their wits' end. They don't really know where to turn first, what to do next. And it's not because they're not motivated. It's not because they're lazy or disorganized. These are very successful women. And if they don't feel like they've reached the level of success they want yet, they come to me because they know they can be more and do more, but they don't want to do more and then feel so exhausted at the end of the day that they don't have any energy left to have an exciting personal life. Who doesn't want a wonderful career, but you don't want it at the expense of other things that are important to you, like time for yourself, time for your family and friends, time for your children or your furry children? And here's the deal. If you get yourself to the point where you feel that everything is urgent, your brain goes into overdrive. That's what we call in the business decision fatigue, because going into overdrive in that way gets you exhausted at the get-go before you even really get started. So here's my next point. The highest performing women, the ones that I would give the highest evaluations to, didn't necessarily work harder. They not only worked smarter, they were more strategic. They focused their energy on what really mattered in their careers. And that's why I was just so excited to jump back on the mic today and talk about this, because in other episodes, I have talked about overwhelm. I talk a lot about work-life balance on this channel. I talk a lot about making sure you're going for your dreams and dreaming big. And yes, I've even talked about prioritization before. I have whole workshops on this subject. I just feel so passionately about it. And the clients that have hired me to do workshops about this, believe me, they feel exactly the same way. Because you don't want to feel like you're spinning your wheels. And when I was thinking about another episode to bring you today, what would that be as you start your week off, right? That's why I love dropping these episodes on Monday. I thought, okay, I have talked about prioritization. That was back in episode 75. But in that episode, I was really coming to it from the position of saying no. Now, we'll talk a little bit about that today in terms of those healthy boundaries and things like that. In fact, I have a whole playlist that can help you with healthy boundaries in general. And I also give some specific examples in some other videos on YouTube. So I'll be sure to include that in the show notes and also in the description box. But in today's episode, I want to emphasize a little bit more about other factors. Yes, setting those boundaries are important. And again, we're going to get into a little bit of that today from kind of a different perspective. But I really want to be able to share at least 3 strategies with you that will incorporate that and more, because I want you to realize it's a lot more than just saying no. It's really not only saying yes to yourself, but saying yes to the decisions that will really affect your career and your energy and your passion for your work the most. So that's why I'm so excited to bring this topic to you today. Well, I'm always excited to bring you topics. I think you can tell that already if you've been listening to us for a while. But I realized as I was going through all the topics I've already brought you that we haven't talked about prioritization in this way. So I want you to listen to this week. Now, if you find us later in the week or even later next year or the year after, you play this anytime. Our episodes obviously do not have to be played on a Monday, but I drop new episodes on Monday because I want you to have something to look forward to as you're starting your week ahead. And as we say here on the pod, if you can change your Monday, in other words, your attitude about Monday, you really can change your life because it sets the tone for the entire week ahead. Okay, you guys, so if you've been listening to us for even just a little bit, you know once I talk about the subject and why it's important, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some strategies. I usually try to give you at least 2 to 3 strategies, so today is no different. We'll talk about 3 strategies to help you prioritize in a way where, again, you're not burning out. You're not just surviving. In other words, you are thriving. So let's start with strategy number 1. Let's call this focus on what moves the needle. Now, here's where we do see some gender differences. You know, as someone who's got a double doctorate, I've said this before, your girl loves the research. So I not only love doing research for you guys, but I also love keeping up to date with the trends and also noticing how different issues affected my staff differently. So many of you may already know that I've had the privilege of supervising amazing staff in my time. And, when you're on that other side of the desk, you do notice strategies that work and ones that don't. And in my tenure for many years as a boss, I did notice some gender differences. In fact, although I'm working on a second book, I knew my first book had to be for the career women out there. And that's where the podcast began. I wanted to start this podcast so that we could continue that conversation. Well, the reason I emphasized career women first is because I really did see that oftentimes we were focusing on the wrong things. We worked so hard to the point where we exhausted ourselves. We oftentimes put ourselves on the back burner, even in this modern age. And one of the biggest gender differences I did see between my female and male staff is that if my male staff had limited hours to, say, complete a project, they really did seem to focus on what they believed would impact the project the most. They wouldn't get tied down in the details, and they weren't scared to ask for help either. So they would get partnerships, they would get champions in other departments to help them out. And I didn't see the women always acting as strategically. Now, again, I'm just speaking in generalities, ladies, because I just want you to be aware. Just put this on your radar. So are you working on the very things that can impact your project and your success the most? And here's a great way to do that. Because if you're unsure where to start, because you might be thinking, okay, that sounds great, Dr. Dawn, but how do I actually do that? How do I know what the priorities should be? Well, definitely ask for guidance. Never be scared to ask for guidance from your superiors and other partners, maybe even folks in other positions there at your company, or even develop those relationships through networking and meet people that have similar positions as you do across your industry, maybe even with other companies, because together you can bounce ideas off one another and really come up with maybe some solutions that can really help. Another strategy within this I want you to kind of think about is ask yourself this question. If I could only get 3 things done today, what would they be? You've probably heard me talk about the MITs. The MITs stand for your most important tasks. This is something we talk about all the time in the personal and professional development space because, again, if you only had just a short period of time and you could only accomplish 2 to 3 things, that tells you right there where your priorities probably should be. Now, again, ask for that guidance though. I have coached women where together we've kind of discovered that what they thought was the most important task really was not until they got some collaboration and support from their bosses. So, when in doubt, you guys ask for help. And then, if you're thinking, well, I feel pretty confident about that, I don't want to shake your confidence. But there's nothing wrong with asking for that feedback and guidance way before the project is due. So schedule a meeting with your bosses kind of at the midpoint or maybe within the first week or two of the project. So again, you can get that valuable insight. So you're not spending all your time on something else. You're down in the weeds. And then you'll get so frustrated if that, in fact, is not really what they were looking for. Or maybe they were looking for that, but it was something that you could have contracted out to someone else. Remember what your zone of genius is. What do you do better than anybody else? You've got this, ladies. You've got several skill sets that have a unique flair. Even if someone else in your company is doing something similar, we each have a unique perspective that we can bring to the table. So think about what you can contribute to the project, focus on that, and take it from there. Because remember, if you focus on impact and not activities, you'll not only start seeing real results, ladies, but you won't feel like you're drowning. You won't feel so exhausted, and the end of the day comes and you literally are thinking, where did all the time go? Now, if you need help figuring this out, you know we offer one-on-one coaching. We offer some master classes about time management, and then we've got tons of free tools on our website. So be sure to go to drdawnshoptalk.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, I'll be sure to put that right there on the screen for you and also include any links to these resources down in the show notes and in the description box. All right, ladies, let's move on to strategy number 2. I'm calling this one cut the energy drains. That's right, ladies. We're talking about those secret energy drainers that just pull your focus, your attention, and definitely your enthusiasm for getting things done because these silent energy leaks are literally draining you and keeping you from performing at your best. And you know what I'm talking about. I kind of made reference to this earlier when I was talking about episode 75. If you've not listened to that one yet, again, I'll drop that link below. But it's the power of saying no. So we already know that's important. If you're saying yes to everything, you're definitely going to exhaust yourself and spread yourself too thin. And then you're definitely not going to have the time to prioritize what matters most. Another energy drain, this one is easy to fall into, ladies, is the fact that you might not be delegating things you really need to. It's kind of that attitude where you're like, oh, I'll just fix it myself. I can do it faster and better. You know what, ladies? Maybe so. But if you're constantly coming up behind someone and fixing what you think are their mistakes, or if you just take it on yourself when you didn't really have to, not only is that draining your energy, but if you're in a leadership position, you are actually kind of slapping the faces of the people that you're trying to support. It doesn't feel good, does it, when the boss comes behind you and ends up fixing things that they perceive as mistakes, and perhaps it really wasn't. Maybe it was just your way of doing it. So, sometimes we do run across this idea that it's my way or the highway, and maybe your way really is a little bit better, but you've got to be better about delegating, not just to your employees if you are in leadership. I had to learn the hard way, you guys, because I thought I was saving them time and myself. And in fact, if I went behind them and fixed things or changed things, even though their way was really pretty darn good anyway, they're not going to feel empowered to help me. They're not going to be enthusiastic to be part of the team. So I had to learn the hard way to let go of those results, to teach my team and my employees exactly what the requirements were but then leave it up to them how to get there. Yes, if you're in leadership, you probably do know the insider scoop as to why this one method might be the best, but you got to explain that to your team. Or on the other hand, if you just explain what the result needs to be, let them figure out the way, you guys, they might end up teaching you an innovative way to accomplish the same goal, perhaps in a way you never would have thought of before. And it could be a lot better than the way you were going to approach it. So give it a try. You guys, you'll love it. So here's your challenge on strategy number 2. I want you to put in place this week. For 1 week, you guys, it can just be the 5 work days. It doesn't have to be the entire week. You don't have to track this on the weekends unless you just want to, okay? Because sometimes the weekends can drain us too, and we come back to work on Monday and go, oh my gosh, I don't even feel like I had a weekend, okay? So if you do want to track all 7 days, that's even better. But for sure, track these 5 days, and here's what I want you to do. Track what you think might be draining your energy by asking a couple of questions. Number 1, does this task actually align with my goals? Number 2, is this moving me forward? Or when I really think about it, is it just keeping me busy? When you spot these energy thieves, yes, I'm going to call them thieves, I want you to eliminate, automate, or delegate. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. You either eliminate the task or you automate the task. For example, if it's an email that you constantly tend to send out, create a template for that. So next time you can plug things in and send it out. Or, like I said, if you can't eliminate it or automate it, I want you to work hard on delegating it. And you guys, if this sounds easier said than done, remember, I've got all those free resources for you. You can check those out on our website or let me know if I can help. We offer workshops for companies about this. And again, we offer a lot of coaching. So we've got you either way. Our consultations are free, so be sure to check it out. All right, you guys, let's move on to our last strategy. Number 3, I want you to master strategic boundaries. Now, this one is big because burnout doesn't really come from just overworking. It really comes from overgiving. Boundaries aren't about being difficult, you guys. They're about being disciplined with your time and energy. So let me give you some kind of sample scripts of things that you can say. Now, I gave some other examples, again, in episode 75, if you find it difficult to say no. So I'm going to touch a little bit on that issue here and then also give you some other examples. So here's one of my favorites. You literally can say when someone's asking you to do something, you know it doesn't align with your goals, you know you don't have the time for it, you know it's definitely not going to help you move that needle. You literally can say, and I quote, I'd love to help, but my plate is really full right now. Can we revisit this next week? Here's another way to put it. That's not really in alignment with my current priorities, but I really appreciate you thinking of me. Okay? You like that one? That's one of my favorites. And here's another favorite one. Another way, again, to set those boundaries, still sounding professional, still sounding like you are grateful to be part of the team, but again, respecting your time and the things you have to get done. Okay? So it goes like this. I can attend the meeting, but I'll have to leave within 30 minutes so I can meet my deadline. Notice that with each one of those examples that I shared, they were professional, they were kind and appreciative, but they really drew that boundary. They were very respectful of your time and consideration while still thanking the person for considering you for those different projects. So just think about that. Those responses were calm and professional. They weren't defensive. They weren't apologetic. They were clear and had a little touch of class. Who doesn't love that, right, ladies? Now, if those 3 examples sound awesome and you're sitting there thinking, why haven't I thought about that? Listen, you're not alone, okay? These are the kinds of things, again, that I help clients with all the time. Sometimes the help you really need is just how to get started with that conversation. Remember, ladies, confronting a problem or saying no does not have to be confrontational. You can be kind and respectful, still prioritize your time so you can be a master of your schedule, while still being very understanding and kind to others when they're asking for your help. So as we wrap up, just remember, focus on what moves the needle. That was number 1. Number 2, cut what drains you. And number 3, protect your time like it's gold, because it is. When you start using these strategies consistently, you're going to see a change. You're going to feel lighter and brighter. You're going to feel like you're behind the wheel. You are the one driving your decision making, which definitely makes you feel like you have more control over your day. And that type of peace of mind and that feeling that you're really taking care of yourself while still being the wonderful, professional, fabulous woman that you are, I want that for each and every one of you listening to us today. All right, ladies, this is Dr. Dawn reminding you that we close every episode of the Career Woman Secret Playbook podcast with the same motto. If you're not having a fantastic day, you have the power to make it one. And here's why. Because power starts with your choices. We know we can't always control our workload. We can't always control our bosses or our coworkers or even our inbox, right, ladies? But you can always control your mindset. You can always control your priorities, and you definitely can control your boundaries and how you are investing in your time. So take a deep breath today as you face the week ahead. Choose what matters most to you and go out there and make today a fantastic one. I know our episode is over, but this is just the beginning. If you're ready to take action but don't know where to start, just head over to drdawnshoptalk.com for lots of free resources, ways to work together, and for even more. Subscribe to the Dr. Dawn Shop Talk YouTube channel. Remember, ladies, you don't have to take this journey alone. I've got you covered. Till next time.